Welcome to Down the Barrel Podcast with Jimmy and Dino. Get ready to dive into the wild world of Minnesota hunting, trapping, and wildlife. We'll be chatting with some folks who protect, manage, and promote the great outdoors. But don't worry, we'll also have some laughs as we chat about guns, whiskey, and anything else that catches our eye. So grab a drink, sit back, and get ready for a good time.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and Wolf Dot Report proudly sponsor this podcast. However, please note that the opinions, topics, and guests featured may not necessarily align with the views, beliefs, goals, or mission of our sponsors. Welcome back to Down the Barrel. I'm your host, Jimmy.
And I'm Dino.
And today we're here with Jim Sobolik from Trophy Buck Food Plots. Thanks for coming, Jim. And we have a special guest. Jared stopped in to visit us for a little bit too.
Yeah, he decided
from MDHA.
Yeah, he was in the neighborhood, so we figured he'd just pop in. So we welcome him.
Right.
So
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah, how's it going?
Good. Going real good.
Awesome.
Yeah, glad to be here again.
Good.
Well, let's start with Jim. We're here to really talk about your business, Trophy Buck Food Plots. I guess our first question is, how long have you been doing that?
This year will be 31 years that I'm in it.
So what year would that have been that you started then?
1993.
93.
Okay. How did you get started doing, food plots and stuff?
Well,
your bio or?
I guess the way I got started in it was obviously the love of deer hunting.
Right.
I mean, that's been my biggest love ever since I was, as long as I can remember, as a little kid.
Right.
And I like machinery.
Mm-hmm.
I loved farming. I got a pretty good sized farming background.
Okay. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, I went to the University of Minnesota for agriculture.
Okay.
I grew up on a farm, have my own farm, and I just had a huge love for that. I used to work construction. As a matter of fact, I owned my own construction company at one time, and just sick and tired of being on the road.
Makes sense.
And I sold out, and I thought, what can I do? And I thought about this. There was, I thought about maybe possibly doing things like landscaping, but every single person in northern Minnesota that's got a bobcat has got a landscaping business. I said, no, that ain't going to work. And as I was driving around the country in the Northwoods up here, I'd start seeing all these gated off driveways back in the woods, back off of township roads, county roads, whatever. And I got thinking, what is behind them? What's back there? Then it dawned on me, that's all hunting land. That's all cabins. And I thought, well, what could I do to make a living? And so I come up with the idea of building food plots. And back then in 1993, I'll guarantee you there wasn't 5 people in northern Minnesota that even knew what a food plot was.
That's what I was going to say. Probably back then there wasn't, now everybody's got
Everybody knows
a
about
little
it now.
tractor,
Well,
food plots.
Thanks to the TV and the Sportsman's Channel.
Exactly. I remember back then watching Waddell hunting. I don't even know if they were doing food plots then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But so that's what I did is I thought about what I could do to build a company for it. And it didn't take long. I started, advertising. I mean, I made up little flyers and I put them on every single counter in Grand Rapids and Deer River and, 3-fold flyers and set them up and counters and people would take them. And pretty soon people would start calling. Because one thing I realized right off the bat was it's not going to be an impulse buy.
Right.
People would have to really think about it, especially if they didn't even know what it was. So it took a little while, but once it got rolling, I could see this was going to really be something. And it took off way faster than I ever thought it would. My thoughts were actually in 1993 was when my son was born.
Okay.
My oldest son. And my dream was to eventually someday have a business where me and my boys could work together.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll just keep working at it. By the time they retire or graduate from high school, if they want to, they can come in with me and it'll all be great. It didn't take that long. I had to start hiring people. And I mean, this thing took off big time.
Good.
And it's grown into what it is now. Like I was telling you earlier, we do just about 400 food plots a year.
Wow.
And that goes, we stretch out from down by Foley, Minnesota, by St. Cloud, all the way up to, about a stone's throw away from the Rainy River at the border.
Okay.
from Renshaw to the other side of Itasca State Park. That's a big area.
Yeah, that is a
really
very big area.
And so, we cover a lot of area. I get to see a lot of different territory, a lot of different types of soils, a lot of different types of, people.
Yeah, I suppose.
So
a lot of your customers from down south, the cities that just own property up here, or is it just a lot of locals?
No, the majority of the people are from the cities.
Are they? Okay.
The people that have property up here and they can't take care of it.
Right.
So they hire me to take care of it.
Wow.
So when we do everything from, the food plots, we've done all kinds of stuff. I mean, built driveways for them.
Yeah.
Dug ponds, shooting lanes, deer stands.
Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of pretty much anything pertaining to your hunting ground, hunting land.
Right. Yeah.
But the biggest thing has been food plots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can, everything from clearing them to maintaining them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's pretty cool. So it's just one-stop shop with you guys, more or less.
Yeah.
Even if they come to you and they have, 5-6 acres, but they want a food plot, you can actually totally put that in for them if they wanted that.
Even
Right.
just clear the
Right.
land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Jared had mentioned about having a smaller piece of land and being able to build food plots on it. If it would be worth it. Well, it is, because if you take a look at it and say that, okay, my food plots are going to be on my land and I'm going to draw them in from all the other properties, whether it's county or state or whatever land, public land, use that, just make believe it's your land too, and just bring them in from there.
Right.
So I think probably about 7-acre piece of land is about the smallest I've worked with.
Yeah. So is this whole 7 acres?
No, God, no.
Yeah.
And as far as, getting to the point, I guess, of how big food plots are, it all depends. One of the first things I'll ask a landowner when I go to first meet with them, I'll ask them how many people are going to hunt on this land. And it might be, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. The more, believe it or not, the more people that want to hunt it, the worse I cringe.
Yeah.
Because the more people you have involved, the more nobody can get along.
Right.
The more they can't decide on anything.
Right.
And you'll have one guy that's all gung-ho, and the other ones are, I don't know. We got to wait and see. So then you get issues, But but for the most part, like I say, I find out how many people are going to hunt on it and kind of go from there. Because even if they're not saying that they just want to have food plots to feed the wildlife, they end up hunting on them.
Right. Yeah.
So everybody's got to have their own, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, what is the average size? I mean, are we talking an acre, 2 acres?
Well, that also
it all
depends
depends.
on the land and the lay of the land. Some times there might not be any more than a quarter of an acre that's possible to put a food plot on because of, low ground, high ground, whatever, rocky. But sometimes it's only a quarter of an acre. I like to stick within at least a quarter of an acre food plot, and then on up to that acre. Sometimes even 2 acres if it's possible.
Yep.
So,
and there's no regulation in Minnesota for the size of a food plot. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
No size.
'Cause I know some states has to be, at least an acre or something like that. But
no.
And they don't consider that baiting, right?
No. Wildlife food plots are basically an agricultural field.
Okay.
And it's also considered from the DNR habitat. You're creating habitat.
Gotcha.
Because the difference is obviously is all animals will use it. I've seen every animal that you can imagine use them. One of the, believe it or not, what loves the food plots? One of the biggest or most, other than deer,
Bear.
Timberwolves.
Oh, timberwolves.
Really?
Oh,
Yes, they love them.
Really?
They will eat if you're fortunate enough to have some sugar beets growing. They love sugar beets. They love turnips.
I believe it.
Radishes. I've even seen them eat corn.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I suppose when it freezes, then the sugar beets, they get really sweet and the sugars really come out of them.
They're sweet before they freeze. Sugar beets are. That's why, hence, they're sugar beets.
Right.
So normally when a plant freezes, it changes the glucose into the starches into glucose.
Like pumpkins,
So it becomes sugar. But sugar beets are actually starch, or the starch is already sweet to begin with. That's why they can harvest them and make them into sugar, because otherwise, if they froze them, they start rotting right away.
True. Okay.
But no, the sweet sugar beets, believe it or not, like I said, other than the deer love them. But the wolves, they love them.
They actually take advantage of them too.
I've actually watched timber wolves eating sugar beets in the same field as 30 or 40 deer.
Oh,
Really?
geez.
They don't care. Doesn't bother them a bit.
Well, if
Yeah.
they're there for the sugar beets and not
Yeah.
the deer, you know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, but anyways, yeah, it's the habitat that you're creating, because the difference is obviously is that you're creating habitat where if you're baiting, you only bait until you harvest something off it and then you quit.
True.
And the downside to that is if them animals are starting to depend on it,
Mhm.
and then you shut it off, it's harmful to them, I guess, in a way, as far as having to go find more food,
That makes sense.
different
Right.
food.
Yep.
So.
Awesome.
Well, Jared, you're awfully quiet over there.
Yeah.
He's just taking it all in.
I just,
Right.
yeah, I'm listening. And, we've talked plenty of times. And I guess up until now, I thought you were more just a consulting business.
Oh,
you
no.
know, come in and tell landowners how to manage their property.
No.
I didn't realize you were doing that work for them.
No,
So
and
it's
you
very
brought
cool.
that point up about consulting.
Mhm.
That is one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah.
This is getting to be a very big thing. Like I said, I've watched this grow for a lot of years. And right now, my biggest, not competition, but nemesis is consultants. Because the thing of this consultant is they, with the modern day, with the computers, the aerial photographs, all the different tools that they have in that aspect, they can sit down, they'll make up a plan for a landowner, and they call it consulting. They call it, a plan for where to put your food plot, where to put your deer stands, where to
Right.
put the trails, I've even had them put where mock scrapes go, where to put bedding areas, where to put, apple trees, all this stuff here. And the problem with that is these people will buy into this. It sounds great. You're going to transform my land into this wonderful, unbelievable hunting property. The problem with that is the people that are consulting, they've never done anything in their life.
Right.
But they're not even from Minnesota.
Yes, most of them aren't even from
Majority.
Minnesota.
Right.
They've never cleared a piece of land. Their expertise in planting a food plot is walking around with a hand planter and cranking out some seed on top of the
Right.
ground. They're lucky to have a four-wheeler with a sprayer on it. You laugh. People laugh about it because jokingly, but you wouldn't believe how much equipment I have.
Oh, I've seen the pictures. You got some
Yeah.
actually heavy duty equipment.
Yeah. The thing of it is that the people, like I say, I've been doing this a long time, and I've seen a lot of people come and go. I've seen more than I could ever count. And the reason for that is because people start talking about food plots. They think, oh God, it's fun.
Mhm.
I want to do it.
Yep.
And so they get a little tractor, a little tiller, they get a little planter, they get a pallet to drag behind their four-wheeler to cover the seed up with, and they think they're a food plot expert.
Oh, that
But-
sounds familiar.
Hey, we don't have a pallet though.
That's true.
Oh, I've seen bed springs. They work.
I do have one of those.
Yep, with tires and bricks on
Yeah.
it. Yep.
It
But
didn't work for me.
What happens is that, that will work for the one food plot you started on.
Right.
But now what the main thing is that you have to be able to build a food plot in any place that it could possibly be. You get a landowner has you come look at their property. It could be aspen forest that's never been cut,
Right.
virgin timber, 24-inch on the stump. You got to be able to build a food plot there. And if you can't, then that just limited you of a job.
Exactly.
Yep.
You have to be able to build one anywhere. And most people can't do that. And pretty soon they find out, for one thing, how hard a work it is. And they give up. And the other thing is that you really do honestly have to have a pretty good farming background to be able to plant this stuff, to know what to plant, where to plant, how to plant it.
That was going to be my question too, as
Mhm.
to, you can go to L&M and get, we bought that domain stuff, which is
Right.
really good seed, but was it good enough for the soil that we had?
Yeah. Right.
And, or,
Who knows?
the shade, sun, where you would be able to obviously know what they would need.
The biggest thing there is you have to know what to plant to benefit it later.
Exactly.
This year, what you plant this year to benefit it for next year, for the year after that. It's a long-term process, and you have to know what you need to plant, what you need to fertilize with, what you have to do, so that to get to the point that you were looking for to begin with happens.
Exactly.
Because it ain't going to happen the first year,
Right.
So
for sure.
Yeah, some people think, just like you said, it's as simple as buying a 4-wheeler, a small tractor tiller, and just throwing a bunch of seed out there, and it's going to grow. Yeah, that's not the case.
Yeah,
It's not the
we
case.
learned that
No.
ourselves. That it's not that easy.
It's not that easy. And then, going back to the thing with the consultant, one thing that I found, and I can speak from experience because I've had quite a few people call me up and want me to come and look at their property after they've had a consultant. They hand me this great big wad of papers and maps and say, here's what the consultant said. And the problem with it is the first thing I ask them is, when the consultant looked at this, did he give you a long-term plan? And they look at me like, what do you mean? Well, what are you going to do next year or the year after? And if they haven't got any kind of a long-term plan for long goals, I know it's a bunch of crap.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had the very first one that I ever had was down there by the Army base where you guys hunt deer.
Ripley.
Fort
Ripley.
Camp Ripley, yep.
And Potlatch had 1,000 acres down there. And they hired an outfit out of the cities to prepare this land for sale. And they hired the Quality Deer Management Association. And they came in and they built this whole map. They a consultant put us all together. And then they put it out on bids. There's about 5 or 6 different contractors that got to be able to bid on this. And then the cheapest one got awarded it, of course. I was not the cheapest one. But what they did was they basically took the map and they just figured out, okay, we need to have a bedding area. We need to have a food plot here, it's on like on a grid so that they're all evenly spaced out. We needed the road on this side. We needed to have it so that because there was plantings on one side of the road and not the other side, so they could drive these with their side-by-sides.
Mm-hmm.
It might be legal to road hunt in Georgia. It's not legal here. And so it was kind of designed like you would maybe see something in Georgia. Yeah, but the problem is the food plots, some of them were on the side of cliffs. Because it was just printed out on a map.
Right. They didn't actually went to the property.
They didn't go look at it.
Right.
And so this whole thing ended up being a kind of a disaster. The contractor that got the job, believe it or not, he was did field tiles.
Oh.
That's who got hired to do it.
Okay.
And it took I think he was there for 2 weeks and they fired him. And they called me up. They said, would you come and do this? So I went down and finished the whole job. And of course, we had to change some stuff and get it figured out right. Worked out really good. The only bad part of it was it's that's really, really, really dry sugar sand.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tough.
But we were able to get it all done, get it all, the food plots, the trails, everything that we needed to be in there. Yep. It was actually a pretty good experience, put it that way. But so like I said, with the consultants, they just don't put the boots in the ground to figure it out. I had one couple springs ago that I went and looked at it for the guy, and we're sitting in his pickup, and he's showing me the map, and he said, there's supposed to be a food plot right there. And I said, where? He said, right there. I said, you mean in that cattail swamp? But see, that's where it fit in the map.
Yep. Right.
So anyways, that's kind of stuff that you're going to deal with consultants. And I suppose you got to understand, I'm not real pleased with them, so I'm not going to say a lot good about them, because I've had people that I've worked for years built some unbelievably beautiful food plots and trail systems. All of a sudden, they decide they want to get a consultant there and look at it. Next thing I know, I'm out of a job.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can speak from personal experience that has happened. And unfortunately, them pieces of property are still sitting the exact way I was when I left.
Yep.
Well, yeah, it's one thing to say what to do. It's another
one thing to say it and actually do it.
Right.
They don't get out there and do it.
Right.
They tell them this is what you should do, and then they leave. They collect the money, and it's a lot of money.
Right. Right.
Personally, I could never do that. I ain't no saint by no means, but I couldn't take somebody like that. I couldn't steal.
Well, I'm sure they guarantee big bucks.
Oh, yeah. One behind every tree.
Right, exactly. I mean, you put that food plot
Mm-hmm.
in, I guarantee you'll get that big buck.
Yeah, they have some nice pictures to show them too.
Right.
Oh, yeah. And they're quite pretty talkative. I mean, they're very, very quick with the
Good
answers.
salesman,
Yeah, good salesman.
Yeah.
I've had. I remember there was a particular customer of mine. I still got him as a customer, but he's very, very wealthy, and his son was sitting on a deer stand on a food plot that I built for him. And after 40 does and fawns came out onto that field that evening and not a single buck, he got mad as hell, got out of the tree stand, went home back to the cabin, and said, I'm done. I said, we got all these food plots, we got 30, 40 does, not a single buck. We've got to do something different. Next day, a consultant was called. Well, in that instance, maybe if you'd have sat there another 15 minutes there, guy, maybe them bucks would have came out. Again, going with my point, kind of into the wolf issue too, is most hunters have to have something to blame other than the fact that maybe they're not a very good hunter.
Right.
So in the instance with this here, there's no buck, so he's got to blame it on the shitty food plots, or not really shitty food plots, but got to blame it on something.
Right. It makes him feel like he's doing something about the problem, calling a consultant.
Yeah. And just like with the wolf issue, I personally think that a lot of people that they go sit in a deer stand, if they don't see a deer within 10, 15 minutes opening morning, the wolves got them all eaten. They got something to blame, and they go home.
Yep.
But yeah, with the consultant, that's kind of what happens a lot of times is they like to say they will design something for you or promise you all kinds of stuff, and it never ever materializes. Yeah. It's a shame that one piece of property I was talking about, there's been nothing done there. It's been left to go.
Really?
Yeah. He told the landowner that you never should ever till the ground. You broadcast seed out there. I told him, I said, it's a good thing John Deere never heard about that plan.
Right. The guy must have known somebody that sells that no-till seed then. Huh?
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing. These consultants, they will have kind of, I suppose, maybe some connections with some seed companies, so they'll really push a certain kind of seed. And for the most part, the seeds that you get for that are southern state companies don't grow up here. Right. It might grow, but the problem is we don't have the growing period. Like one of my bigger pet peeves is this forage soybeans. They want to plant forage soybeans because down south they show the pictures of them. They're 6 feet tall. They got 800 bushel a acre soybeans on them things. That's what they want. Yeah. And so they sell these people, tell them they're a forage soybean, that the deer can eat them off, and they keep growing and they keep producing and they keep producing. That's not true. There's only two kinds of soybeans in the world. There's no such thing as a forage soybean. There's only two kinds. There's a determinate and an indeterminate. I don't know if you guys are gardeners or not.
I'm a gardener, but I don't grow
soybeans. You raise
soybeans.
Tomatoes?
I do.
There's an indeterminate and a determinate.
Okay.
What that means is a determinate, whether it's a soybean or it's a tomato, they have, as soon as the daylight starts getting shorter, the photoperiodism, as soon as it's getting shorter, they will go to putting on the blossoms. The growth of that soybean is over. Now it goes into putting on fruit.
Okay.
Same thing with tomato. Indeterminate doesn't care. It just keeps it'll keep producing fruit constantly. It'll just, if you go out there, get tomatoes for an example, you pick them all off it. And then go out there next week, there's more blossoms. Yeah. Okay. Because they have such a long growing period down there, they can do that. Up here we don't. We have to use a determinate. And with the soybeans, with a determinate, it grows through its life cycle. It grows, it goes to seed, blossoms, goes to seed, and dies. And when it grows, when it starts out, it starts taking nutrients out of the ground. When it goes to seed, it puts the nutrients all back in the ground, plus way more, a lot more, for nitrogen and phosphorus and all kinds of different stuff they put back in the ground. And that's how come it's such a good crop to rotate, because it puts back in the ground more than it takes out. But an indeterminate one never quits taking it out of the ground.
Makes sense.
And until it would obviously get to be very old, which is about 150 days. Our soybeans are like 70-day soybeans. It will eventually put it back in, but we don't have enough time to do that. You get a first frost, kills it, it's done. You have nothing left in the ground. And I've taken soil samples off of an indeterminate field that had soybeans on it. There was literally not one single bit of nutrients left in that ground.
Wow. Really?
I had a customer that insisted I planted them. And I said, okay, I'll plant them, but your baby, you're going to take responsibility. Yeah. And so we planted them. I took soil samples later. There wasn't a thing left in that ground.
And then you had to fertilize the next year or what?
Huh?
You had to fertilize the next year?
Well, you got to fertilize every year. Yeah. You should. But I had to fertilize 3 times what I normally would.
Wow.
To get it back in there. But like I say, it took everything out of the ground, and now you got to battle for the next year and the year after, because you got to replace this stuff. Because any fertilizer you put in the ground, it doesn't work this year.
Yep.
Like the only one that will work is nitrogen. The rest of them have to have a long time to break down in the soil, just like lime does. You won't see the results of them until next year. So now you got a plant that took everything out of the ground, and then come next year, you fertilize it for it, but still nothing in there. You got the buildup all over again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
are food plots a wealthy man thing, or can anybody? I mean, obviously it depends on the size and really what you have to do to it. But
right, to do it right, it's going to cost some money, especially if you have somebody do it for you.
Yep.
But yeah, you have to have it's going to cost some money.
Yep.
Because the fact that the fertilizer is expensive, the seed's expensive. Of course, obviously, if you're hiring somebody, their time, their labor, labor.
Yep.
Right.
It's labor intensive. It all takes time.
Oh, for sure.
But as far as doing it yourself, it's to do it right. It's still going to cost you some money.
Yep.
Most people, when they do it themselves, the first thing they will do is they'll short themselves on fertilizer. I've seen it so many times. The guy will ask me, he says, well, how many pounds of fertilizer should I put on? Well, you should probably put on at least 300 pounds to the acre of a decent blend. Can I get by with 100? Why'd you ask me? If you're going to, if you want to short yourself, go ahead. But yeah, it takes a lot more fertilizer than what you think to do it right.
Yeah.
So, and like I tell people, when we're planting food plots, it is no different than a farmer planting a field.
Right.
It's the same. It takes time, money, and effort to do this. But we actually got to do a better job than the farmer does, because we got the deer trying to kill them off.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
As they start to sprout, their targets are ready.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're already in there mowing them off.
Yep, for sure.
Well, why don't we take a quick little break here? We're at about 25 minutes or so. So let's take a break. Talk to Jim a little bit, and then we will be right back with a few more questions. Maybe we'll hear from Jared for just a minute, and we'll check back in just a few. The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association has been building a hunting and conservation legacy over the past 40-plus years through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation in Minnesota for Minnesota. And welcome back. And here we have Jared Mazurek and Jim Sobolik with us again. And, of course, Jimmy sitting beside me.
Right. I'm always here.
He's always here. He never leaves. Can't get rid of him. So we're talking about food plots, obviously, with Jim, and Jared had popped in. And Jim does our food plots at MDHA.
He does. Yeah. He does. Yeah. Yeah. We've got just under 140 acres just north of town here in Grand Rapids. And we have 4 food plots out there that, Jim, I believe you've been doing for about 12 years now.
Yep. About 12 years.
Yeah. And we get some trail cameras out there on occasion, and we've had some nice deer come through. We've had a few wolves come through as well. So I'm just curious to see what you're thinking for this year for our food plots.
Well, last year we changed it up a little bit to kind of rotate the crops. And so this year we'll go back to, of course, obviously, when we come in and spray them to kill, we'll look at them to see if they're ready to go back to, like, say, my forage, which is a brassica pea grain mix. And if the soil's good and everything's ready to go from taking them out of that for 1 year, we'll go back to them.
Yeah.
Because that's by far produces the most tonnage per acre. I mean, It provides the most feed.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
very good.
What's the soil like out there?
Rockier than hell.
Is it?
Yeah, I've been out there when they've been planting. You can just hear it. Is it
Oh,
a
it's
plant?
just
Is
like-
it rocks?
It's just like dragging a disc down the middle of a blacktop highway. Yeah, it's horrible. But it is what it is. There's one food plot to the southeast
Right.
of the other ones, but kind of back in the woods a little bit.
Yeah, I like that one. I've seen
That's
that one.
great. That
Yeah.
one's no rocks in it. And that's got better soil in it. That's really good.
Mhm.
That was all pipeline right away.
Yep.
And that was all built back in the day when there wasn't a lot of very close watched practices.
Right.
And they basically just came in and took all the soil and just tipped her upside down and went about their job.
Right.
So the topsoil didn't get saved. The rocks didn't get picked out, that kind of stuff. So it kind of all got sifted to the top.
Okay.
And it is what it is. But we grow good crops out there. I mean, it works.
They look great.
Yeah. Well, we actually open up that land for any of our members to come out during the archery season. They can sign up in the office, and hunt over those food plots, and they've had some success over the years.
Yeah.
So we appreciate it.
Yeah, lately we've had, I know the last few years has been just a couple hunters. Just it kind of goes in spurts, obviously, as to who needs more, public land or anything like that. But I'm trying to think, I don't know if they had any success last year, but there were a couple guys that were consistently out there, and they love, the food plots, and they hunt over them all the time, and they always see deer. So
I would imagine if they're consistently going out there, they're not just meat hunters. There's somebody that's going to go out there looking for a particular deer or something particular. It might not have to be just a great big buck, but that if they're doing it all the time, they're doing it because they enjoy it.
Right. Exactly.
Not just shoot something.
Right.
Yep.
So,
do you allow members to put trail cameras out there?
I do believe we do. Yeah. I know they have before, and they've even put up their own stands. So we kind of treat it like obviously public land, to where you put your stand up, we prefer you to take it down. If you do leave it, it's public property more or less. So anybody else can sit in it.
Another member could use it if you leave
exactly.
it there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
Kind of the same with the trail cameras. You're welcome to put them out, but we can't guarantee they'll be there when you get back.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and then Jim, I'm also looking at potentially doing a food plot at my place. I'm about 20 miles northeast of here. The only issue, I'm on about 11 acres, but it's a lot of low-lying wetland. So I'm not really, I don't know. I could use your expertise.
Well, yeah. And like I say, every single project is different. There's no two the same in the whole world. And that's why it's, when I do look at a job, or if I give somebody an estimate on a job, every single one is different. There's nothing set. So it has to be looked at, period.
Yeah.
There's lots of things you can do. There's one, it might be a situation where making some really good wide trails between them low spots. Instead of having a regular round food plot or a square one, you got a long skinny one.
Right.
Yeah.
That works too.
Yeah.
Believe you me, them deer will come right down that trail, especially if you got something good in it for them to eat. But I mean, there's many options, So as far as that goes, 11 acres, that's actually a fairly good sized piece of woods, as long as you got a lot of other woods around it to draw from.
Yeah, absolutely. So if there is somebody out there that wants to do this on their own, any ideas on, seeds that are going to have the best chance in an environment like that?
Well, that's a tough one, because it takes a lot of work to get the ground proper, to condition properly, to grow just about anything. So until that happens, it's not really a magical, I call it the magical bean. There's not a magical bean out there. There's seeds that will grow. There's some pretty good clovers now that'll work if the ground is a little bit lower ground. There's some pretty good clover mixes that you can put in that work. If you can work the ground and till it, the brassica mixes work good. But then again, too, if you don't have enough of an area, they'll get eaten off right away. Drier, arid soil, that's if you can get it established. Roundup Ready alfalfa is an amazing crop for smaller food plots. I mean, at least it's something.
Yeah,
right. At least you can spray that. That's still probably one of the biggest problems with a do-it-yourselfer and smaller food plots is the weeds.
Yeah.
If you can't kill the weeds and take care of that problem, you're always going to have that problem.
Yep.
Weeds never quit. They've been here. Oh God, they've been here for millions of years, and they got their niche, and it's tough to get them out of there.
I bet.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
Sounds like I'm gonna have to have you over to my place.
Yeah, I'd love to come
around.
over and look at it. I'd love to come look at it. I've had guys, customers of mine, they'll say, well, a really super dry year, they'll say, well, how come the weeds are growing and the crop isn't? Because they've been doing it for about 1 million years.
Right. And in that same spot.
It would be nice if a little drought would kill them all, but it don't. So
no.
Yeah. And the weeds, when not properly taken care of, go to seed. Now you just increased them. You're trying to get rid of them too. It's a kind of a catch-22 with them.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, we should have them come look at our spot once too. And
That's
see.
just sand, I think.
That's true, but they'd probably laugh at what we did originally.
Oh, I would almost guarantee it.
Well, like I say, it's all in fun. It's all a lot of it's just doing it because it's fun.
Yeah.
We tried.
It was a reason to drink a few beers.
Yeah, it was definitely a D for effort there. So
yeah, something did grow though. I think
weeds.
We definitely had lots of weeds, but I think there was some random stuff in between there.
I think there was.
Yeah,
for sure. And then horses ate some of it.
Oh, I've had that happen.
Yeah,
I had a guy one time that I planted these food plots for him. Oh my God, they were doing beautiful. Neighbors' cows got out. This guy lived in the cities, and I went over there to check on him for whatever I went over there for. I don't remember. Maybe I was going to go over and do some spraying. Maybe I was going to do some something else. And I got over there. I'm looking. There's cows everywhere. I'm not talking 2 or 3. I'm talking like 50, 60 head out there. And I looked, and that food plot was gone. I mean, literally, it was beautiful. The turnips, were probably in that baseball size already, maybe a little bigger. Maybe 2 to 3 feet high growth out there.
Wow.
There was nothing. And they'd been there for a few days because they were in there long enough to get this run through their system.
Yeah.
There was no cow pies. It was all liquid.
Oh man, what a mess.
And you want to talk about stink. But it was literally, that ground was covered. I mean, literally covered. The next year, I had some of the best food.
That's great fertilizer. That's the best fertilizer ever.
The best fertilizer there is. The landowner was not happy.
Well, no.
Right.
No.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that happens. I know I was down in Illinois deer hunting once, sitting in a stand, and I had a bunch of cows just wander by me.
Yeah. I had another customer that he went and looked at his food plots, and there was nothing there. And so he called me up, and he was ticked. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't know. I don't know what would be wrong with them, why they wouldn't grow. So I drove over there to look at them. And I get there, and I started taking pictures of all the cows standing in his food plot. This is a different guy from the previous guy. So I emailed him in pictures. I said, I don't know. What do you think happened? And I made sure that I had the pictures with the cow and his deer standing on them. So he knew it was his land. He didn't say nothing after that. But I thought to myself, you called me up mad as all get out. Didn't you notice that this is all eaten off and there's cow pies everywhere and there's tracks everywhere?
Just really big deer.
Right.
Yeah. Really big deer.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So how was your hunting season this year?
It was a great hunting season.
Yep.
I consider it a great season anytime I can get out there.
Right.
I hunted a lot of days. That's one thing I have the opportunity to hunt many days. I'll definitely hunt there, probably about the second half of October all the way to the first of the year. And it was great. It was good. I shot a really big buck. My son got one. Let's see. That's all we got this year. But it was good.
Awesome.
It was a really good season. I mean, I've heard a lot of people complaining, saying that it was a terrible deer season. I've read on Facebook different people complaining, saying that they hunted 7 days hard, never left the deer stand for 7 days straight. Well, and they never seen a deer, never got a deer. Maybe they didn't see one, but they didn't get one.
Yeah.
Out of all the days I hunted this year, I guarantee you I could pick out 7 days that sucked.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
But I can pick out 7 that were unreal too. It goes back to that thing, like I said, about they got to blame something.
Yep.
They can't blame that they're a shitty hunter.
Exactly. Most people won't confess to that.
Just us,
no.
Right.
I've got guys that tell me, I got guys that don't want to plant a certain food plot anymore because every time they go out there, they chase all the deer out of it and the deer don't come back. And I've asked, well, why are they chasing them out of there? Well, when I drive my side by side across the food plot to get to my stand, they all leave.
Weird.
Okay. You can't fix stupid.
No. That's tough. You can't.
But that's, like I said, they got to blame something. If they think that there's some wolves around, that's the biggest thing I hear. That's the main number one thing.
Yep.
And I ask every single one of my customers if what they think about the wolves. If they've seen wolves, had wolves, whatever. The majority of them, a lot of them, I should say, will say that, yeah, the wolves are terrible. Got to do something about the wolves. My next question, have you ever seen one out there? Right. Well, no, but I've seen the tracks and I've heard them. That's the next thing I hear. Well, that don't constitute that it was you got wolves chasing all the deer out of there. Another thing, too, I get a kick out of with people complaining about the wolves. They always say, I got nothing but wolves. The deer are gone. All we see is wolf tracks. No deer left. Next thing I say to them is I say, if you were to go to the grocery store down here, downtown Grand Rapids, you went in that store and there wasn't a single thing left in that store to eat, would you continue to go back there or would you go to find a different grocery store? You don't think the wolves are doing the same thing?
Exactly.
Right.
If the wolves ate everything out, they would go to the next grocery store.
Yep.
So don't tell me that the wolves are still there because they ate all the deer. They don't. Another one that I've heard many times, got all wolves, no deer, but their food plots are all eaten off. Wolves will eat just about anything, but they're not total vegetarians.
Yeah, no, completely.
Like we said in our first video, we had a wolf on the camera opening day.
Yeah.
And then we had a deer behind it within 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that.
See it all the time.
Right. So, I mean, they're there. We used to hunt north of town and we had good deer population for quite a few years. And then started noticing wolves were moving in. You know, we hear them howling, we see their tracks, everything. And then the deer population, in that area kind of slowed down. We could quit hunting out there for a couple of years. But then we had a buddy, he went back hunting there and deer population was back up. Less wolves, so it's obviously a cycle, and
For
you
sure.
can attest to that.
It's definitely
property.
a cycle. When the deer population goes up, the wolf population goes up. When the deer population drops off, so does the wolf population. It's a cycle. And not only is it a cycle for going up and down, it's a long-term cycle. I did a bunch of research studying on the deer hunter, the kill rates, the amounts of deer that were killed, harvest rates, and the total deer survival of the deer, how many there were because of bad winters and whatnot, and the wolf counts. And they all went up and down the same, about a 10-year cycle. And right now we're in the bottom of the 10-year cycle. It's not a cycle. It's not just because of bad winters. It's not because of the wolves. It's just a normal, natural cycle, just like the grouse. The grouse cycle is every 10 years. Deer are too. Look it up. It's on. I Googled it. Anybody can Google it. It's a cycle. And it's about a 10-year cycle, just like everything else. So when people say it's all the wolves, it's not. And the more so than anything, it's bears.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, that guy at Camp Ripley,
Right.
He was telling us about the bears down there. Yeah, the MP. He said, because normally we, get reports of wolves and bears. And this year, very few wolves and a lot of bears.
A lot of bears. Yep. There was that guy, my favorite scientist or biologist, whatever. He's dead. He's passed away now, but a guy by the name of Glenn Dr. Delgadice, Glenn Delgadice. He did a 30-year study over here in the Shingle Mill country, which is that big, huge woods between Grand Rapids or south of Grand Rapids, Sugar Hills area, over to Deer River. Reamer, I'm sorry. And a 30-year study. And in his study, he concluded with a lot of research and a lot of facts that of all predation, the black bear kills off 50% of the fawn crop. It's 50% of all predation is by black bears.
Wow.
The timber wolf, believe it or not, is only 7 to 9%. And the age group that they primarily attack or go after is the old ones, the oldest of the herd. And it's probably because they're going to die anyhow.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not going to make it through the winter. Anybody that knows much about wolves will know that they get most of their food, plentiful food, is in the wintertime. And that's because these deer aren't making it through the winters and they're dying. The summertime is the worst time for bear or deer or wolves. Because that's when they just about, if they're going to starve to death, that's when they do it.
Right.
Because there's not much for them to eat. They can't catch it, for one, I suppose.
Right.
The same thing's going on right now. You've got a very mild winter. The wolves are starving right now. I've seen a lot of pictures of them, and they are starving to death right now. They have nothing. They can't catch the deer. They have no sugar beets to eat. They got no forbs. They got no roots, no grass, nothing like that to eat, no berries, which they eat a lot of. So that right now, even the deer population went down, the wolf population is going to go down. But it's going to be more so on the wolves because there's nothing for them to eat. The deer are coming. They got it made right now. They're going to come back big time.
Yeah.
The wolves, they're going to be behind quite a ways before they come back.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you're saying right now is yes, wolves are an issue in the state. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Their populations way more than it should be. They need to be managed, but that's not the only contributing factor to our declining deer herd and
absolutely
to responsible 100%. Deer management.
Absolutely
right?
not.
And that's where, organizations like MDHA that don't only advocate for one issue like the wolf, but also, encourage our members and have opportunities for our members to build their own food plots, or all the habitat work that we do around the state, and the education programs that we have for the future generation of hunters. All of that combined is going to have the impact that we need, right? It's not just the one issue. While wolves are a very important issue and we're working hard on it, we've got a couple bills that were just introduced dealing with the wolf issue. That's not the be all end all, right? There's a lot of work in a lot of different areas. So I appreciate you saying that.
And, I know there was a question you're going to ask me about the Minnesota Deer Association, if I'm a member. And there was another question too you're going to ask, but being a member, I was probably the first member.
Right. Yeah. You've talked about that with me quite a bit.
Rod Dimich, the founder of this, he was my English teacher. And I signed up the day this organization started, and I've been here ever since. That's been 44 years now.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that.
Right.
For sure.
It's a long haul.
And you ask about the what I think the value of the Minnesota Deer Association is. The number one thing is, where else are you going to get a voice in the government, in the hunting aspect of it, the people? I know there's another certain entity that's coming up that's kind of a pain in the ass. They're nothing but they're bitching and they're complaining about the MDHA constantly. The thing of it is, trying to get people to drop out of the MDHA and go join their club. How foolish could you possibly be to try to drop out of an organization that's been going this long, that really, truly, honestly is the only voice you have?
Right. Yeah.
You don't have a voice anywhere else. You by yourself are worthless.
Well, and like Jared alluded
I wouldn't
to,
say that. Please vote, everybody.
but like Jared alluded to, there's obviously a lot of issues, more than just, right now, the wolf topic. There's, habitat, the education. So, so there's a lot of issues that MDHA deals with and has dealt with over the time that you've seen.
Right.
And, you're obviously an active member, so you know what's going on all the time.
Well, it's not all the good things they do. It's the opportunity to be associated with it. It's an opportunity to be in it.
Yep.
You have a voice. This is your voice. This is your aid, your help, your whatever.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
For sure.
Yeah. That's what we pride ourselves on, is giving every member a voice on the issues that matter.
Yeah. How foolish could you be to throw that away? Or even more importantly, how foolish are you? How stupid are you to have a complaint about that, to knock that?
Yep.
What's that going to get you?
Right.
Nothing. The Minnesota Deer Association has been a great organization, like I said, for 44 years. And I've always prided myself. I have asked every single person I've worked for in 31 years doing this. I ask everyone, are you a member of the MDHA? And there's quite a few that aren't.
Yep.
I do my level best to get them to sign up.
Awesome.
I think everything is short of, I'm not going to work here if you And you'd be surprised how many are.
Yeah.
And they tell me that they're life members.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we have quite a few life members, and they grow daily.
Yeah.
Even regular members, they grow daily.
Yeah. That's what I should have done 44 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with that note, I think, Jared, you got to be taking off. Is that right?
I got to head out. I got some kids that are getting hungry, I think.
All right.
So.
All right.
But thank you guys for having me.
No, thanks for stopping
Yeah,
by.
thanks for stopping by. And
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been interesting. This is I think you guys got a really good thing going here.
yeah, well, we appreciate it. Well, we're going to take
definitely like to do it again.
Oh, for sure. I think.
Well, I don't think they're done with you, Jim.
Oh,
No,
we're not done with you,
not
Jim.
done with you.
You're not
That's
going
right.
anywhere.
We got a couple other issues that I need
You
to.
have not been released yet.
Right. We've got a few more minutes, but we're going to let Jared take off. We're going to take just a little quick break, and we'll get back with you here in a minute.
At Wolf.report, citizen science means that you provide the data and we provide the platform. Our website is designed for the citizens, hunters, trappers, and anybody else of Minnesota to easily report wolf encounters and share location data. All right, we're back from that little short break, and we're still here with Jim from Trophy Buck Food Plots. And Jim, I was curious, how many acres do you have on your farm?
I have total of about 130 acres.
And you said earlier that you hunted in October, so you must be a bow hunter too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay. Other than bow hunting, what is your go-to caliber when you're out firearm hunting?
For deer, I would have to say the 7mm 08.
Okay.
Okay.
That is a nice rifle.
It
Nice
is. I've never shot one. But...
I've shot one. Matter of fact, I owned one. My first one I got 40 years ago. The very first one I've got a lot since then. But yeah, the 7mm 08. That's a great gun. I've shot deer at 500 yards with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
I shot them, close too.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the 6.5 Creedmoor?
Well,
I mean, Jared shoots the Creedmoor.
Right.
Yeah, he's gone now, so
he is gone now.
We can talk about him, yeah. I'll tell you what, the Creedmoor is a very good gun. It's a very good bullet, very good cartridge. I myself, the reason I don't care for it is because it is so overrated.
Correct.
Yeah, for sure.
It is so overrated. Every gun manufacturer now has a 6.5 Creedmoor. Yep. Even Weatherby, they forego some of their Weatherby calibers, put a 6.5 Creedmoor because it's so popular.
Right. It sells, I suppose.
It's all about sales. And they compare it to every cartridge out there. I've seen where they compare it to a 300 Win mag.
Yep, I saw that too.
The thing of it is, though, is one of the instances where they're comparing it to the 300 mag was kind of make fun of it. Yeah, it was all on the light side, but still, they compare it to every gun out there. And the fact is that gun was made originally for a silhouette shooter, for a long range bench shooting rifle.
Yep.
Okay. Hornady came up with that because when they built that cartridge, then they built the guns around them so that they were very accurate instead of the other way around. Instead of making a gun and then creating ammunition for it, they created the specs on that bullet and then they put the gun around it, and it caused it to be a super accurate gun, which it is. But the fact is that when there's a lot better cartridges out there for actual hunting, I feel there is, that are designated hunting bullets, not just the cartridge or the shell or it's the bullet itself that they carry. That are better hunting guns. Yep. Like personally, the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 7mm 08 are pretty close.
They are, yeah.
But the 7mm 08 has a little more power, actually a little more range. People argue about that. So I bet you I just get pissed off. I started it now. Yep. But it does. But it's using a better hunting bullet in it. There's an old story about years ago. I seen this when I was a kid in it was Outdoor Life. They took them old oil cans that were paper oil cans. They had tin on top and tin on the bottom. They had to put a spout in them to pour the oil out. They took them and they filled them up with water and they set them out. This is out like Wyoming or something like this, big open area. And they set these up on the ground and they shot them with every gun at that time. The purpose for this was to see which one hit hardest, what it would do.
Yeah.
Every one of them put a bullet hole through them. Except a 30-30 Winchester. The model 94 Winchester is what they're using. They use a 30-30. They shot that oil jug with that. It looked like a truck rolled over it.
I was going to say, probably just blew it right up.
Blew it all to pieces. Yep. It's not because it had the most power. It's not because it was one single thing about it. It was just a combination of the perfect diameter, the perfect weight, the perfect speed. Yep. It just hits hard. It's everything's exactly perfect. And that's kind of the thing with the 7mm 08. A lot of it is exactly perfect versus the Creedmoor. Yep. The Creedmoor, they're trying to take a long-range rifle and make it to compete with the other ones. Yeah, and it's all the hype that goes along with it. It's what I get tired of.
Good marketing.
It's all the marketing.
For sure.
It's not the magical cartridge. It's not the best one out there. So every time I hear Creedmoor, I go, "Oh man, here we go."
I know. I do. Yeah.
Some people just really buy into that.
Yeah.
Right.
Another gun I like is a 6.5 PRC, 7mm mag, 243.
Yep, 243.
I love 243.
the classic rounds myself.
Yep.
I shoot a 270 and a 308.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Great
the
guns.
270 is
Great guns.
my go-to, and then the
Mhm.
308 was one I recently purchased. So,
Yeah.
and the kids have a 243 and they love it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, I know they do. I know your daughter does because I was sitting right alongside her when she shot her first deer with it.
because apparently Dad was bad luck, so she had to sit with Jim to get her deer.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
So, you know, awesome. Well, that's funny. That of course we bring that up when Jared leaves, of course.
Yeah.
Right. He's not here to defend the 6.5.
Right. So we talked a little bit about, obviously, you know, you pretty much service everywhere in Minnesota.
Northern Minnesota.
Northern Minnesota. Yeah. Like I said, from about the St. Cloud, just a little bit north of St. Cloud, that Mille Lacs Lake area, down to Foley.
Right.
And then far north is Baudette, up in that country, Birchdale.
Yeah.
It's right on the border. It's got a great customer right on the border. I mean, you could fish off the food plot and the Rainy River. And then as far as like from Renshaw over to all the way to Itasca State Park and on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So it's a big area.
Right.
Prefer to stay a little closer to home.
Well, yeah,
that's the way it is.
A little easier,
Right.
but
So your season pretty much starts, obviously, depending on the weather in the spring.
Right.
So let's just say this year might be one of
who
your
knows?
earliest years, potentially.
Potentially, yes, it is.
You know, in
It
the
will
fields
be.
and stuff.
Mhm.
So April, one of your busy times, obviously the spring
May,
and then the fall.
The very busiest times is May and July and August.
Okay.
That's planting times.
Yep.
And then, but it's busy pretty much from the 1st April until about the 1st November. Middle of October it starts slowing down. So it depends on every year is different. You know, all of a sudden a bunch of people want some trails, some shooting lanes made, you know, something like that. So it varies. And then the winter time can also be a very busy time too. This winter would have been a great winter had we had some snow.
Yeah.
The thing is that we got the frost in the ground, even though there's not a lot, you can't work it. When you got frost in the ground, then you get snow, the frost actually comes out of the ground.
Yeah.
And so I can go out there. That's the greatest time in the world to clear. That's the greatest time to clear trees because you can grab hold and pull them out of the ground. The dirt stays in the ground.
No. Yep.
I suppose.
And then also you can make trails through swamps, whatnot. But this year, it's just been weird.
Yeah, this is a weird year.
Don't got a lot of frost, but there's enough of it to stop you.
Yep.
So, which, yeah, it's just part of the business.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And then next year, you'll have 4 feet of snow and you can't do nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you seen a winter like this before in your business?
I've seen it where it was just like this, but it come to an end and then we had winter.
Right. And that's what I'm worried about, honestly.
Yeah,
me too.
I can remember one year where we were splitting firewood and it was t-shirt weather and literally the ground still was kind of green.
Yeah.
The grass.
Kind of like this year.
And that was in January. I've seen it like this, but it came to an end.
Yeah.
Not to say that it got horrible bad, but we kind of got winter then.
Right.
Yeah.
We actually got some snow.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose it also depends on your busy season as for obviously the weather. If we're in a drought, I mean, we've been in a drought off and on the last, 10 years in a way.
It has kind of changed. The climate changes. Like I said, I'm not an advocate of climate change because that's really gets me going.
That'll be
the global warming
episode.
Yeah,
That'll be
we'll talk
another
about that
episode.
But when I say climate change, I'm talking about that same look with the deer. You got your fluctuating. It's a
cycle.
A cycle. I can remember when I was a kid on the farm. Of course, school started, the first day after Labor Day.
Right.
And I can always remember chopping corn at that time, and it had froze. Because as soon as you get a good killing frost, like 2 days later, Dad would be chopping corn. That's when it was perfect time to chop it. We don't get a frost. Don't seem like that early anymore. It's always later in September. So that's kind of changed.
Right.
So yeah, it does fluctuate. It does change. That's for absolute for sure. So,
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a cycle for everything.
Mhm.
Climate
cycle for
deer.
everything.
Yep. So I guess we're pretty much almost ending it pretty much there. So
Yeah.
what's a good way for people to reach you? I mean, you have a website.
A website.
Okay.
Yep. It's
Trophybuckfoodplot.com.
trophybuckfoodplot.com.
Okay.
Plots, plural.
Yeah,
plots.
I bet you know who that is.
Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
And that's my website. And either that or it's at 218-244-3365 is my phone number.
Okay, 3365. Yeah, so good. Well, and then also I know I saw your vehicles well before I even knew you, before I worked for MDHA. Driving around, I was like, God, there goes that truck with Trophy Buck Food Plus on the side of it. It was a gray Ford F-250.
That guy gets to have fun all the time.
Man, I wonder what he does. So I looked it up. I was like, oh, that guy does food plots.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I need to get to know him. And then lo and behold, you do the food plots by my house that aren't mine.
Yeah.
But no, it's been really great. And like I said, my daughter hunted on your land, last year.
Mm-hmm.
My son hunted this year, which was great. We saw a lot of deer, had some good opportunities. So hopefully next year
love to have him back next year.
Yeah, next year we'll hopefully be able to go back and get that done. And yeah, by all means, I would
personally feel that I'm going to have to recruit a few more kids on the youth hunt this year that come to my place, because I think we're going to have a plenty of deer to shoot.
Yeah.
I need to kind of maintain them a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I would definitely recommend anybody, if you're looking for food plots or, anything that has to do with land clearing, trails, anything.
All of the above.
Yeah, definitely.
Give Jim a call.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So, and we appreciate you coming in today and kind of going over everything. I think.
Hopefully you can come back sometime.
Yeah, for sure. I think we can figure out a couple subjects that we can talk about.
We'll set you off somehow for
sure.
We'll
get Jared back in here and think of something we can pick on him about.
Yeah, let's see if we can get his food plots going, and we'll kind of follow along.
That'd be great.
That'd be kind of cool.
There'd be something there that people could kind of follow that, see how they're going, see the progression.
See if you can turn his swamps into actually something worth hunting on.
Hey, the consultants say you can do it.
Right.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. All we need is an aerial photo.
Sure.
We might be able to do something like that.
So
for sure.
Well, perfect. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for coming over, Jim.
Yeah, I appreciate the chance to do this. It's fun.
Yeah, hopefully you'll come back sometime.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Sounds good, guys. Well, till next time. See you later.
Views expressed by Jimmy and Dino or podcast guests are solely their own and do not represent the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and Wolf Dot Report.